Welcome back to the She Thrives Influential Women podcast. I am your host, Lori Murphy, and I am an empowerment coach for women, public speaker, a published author, and I'm also the host of this amazing podcast. And I am so grateful to have you all here. If you are new to the podcast, please hit that subscribe button. Please never, ever, ever miss another episode. And I'm just so happy to have you all here. Please make sure you leave a review. Let's get this podcast spread across the world so women all over can be inspired, empowered, and full of positive energy. Like I said, I love that we're here today. So, today I have an amazing guest. I have Jacqueline Waller. She is incredible. Her and her partner, Amy Adams, they are the heart and soul behind the inspiration of this inspirational journey. Their business is called You Are Loved. Their journey began in childhood when they first met and quickly became inseparable. Over the years, their bond has grown stronger and transforming them into the sisters that they are today. You Are Loved was born during the challenging times of 2020, amidst of a global pandemic. Jacqueline started this company to remind people to be gentle with others and themselves, recognizing the power of shared vision. Jacqueline asked Amy to join her in creating and growing You Are Loved. They believe everyone deserves to live a life filled with harmony and balance, and their goal is to inspire and empower women to find that perfect balance between career, self-care, and family bonds. And Jacqueline, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, good. I love that bio. I was like, I'm just gonna keep going with it because
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I think between like something I had written and Amy, she's like really the creative one. I'm a very literal kind of person, but she's like super creative. And so she's the one that really uh did that. Yeah.
She, I would have loved to have been able to meet her. Maybe sometime I'll have you
Yeah.
both on together. So you guys you grew up with together.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
So how was that? Like, how was it growing up with each other? Tell me a little bit about that background.
Well, she's younger than I am, so I really grew up and hung out more with her sister in high school and stuff like that, because we were the same age, but they lived across the street from us. And then like in our 20s is when we started getting really close and hanging out all the time together and going out to clubs together and just stuff like that. And because we've known each other for so long and I just have always had this endearing love for her. She's always been like this little sister and it just always felt so protective and stuff like that. So, and then I wish she was here to, share her portion of it, but the other thing is that like whenever I'd go over to her house or whatever, it was always just this place that I just felt like it was like a center of peace
Mhm.
and feeling like I could just like hang out all day. Like during a few, like back in 2004, we got hit with like a major hurricane. And so we were out of electricity for like most of us were for like 2 weeks. And
Oh gosh.
so thank goodness we had already all filled up like with our gas and we only lived like 3 miles or 4 miles from each other. Uh, or maybe like five or six or whatever. And so like, okay, you come over today or I'll go over tomorrow because we didn't want to use up all of our gas because we didn't know when we were going to get more.
Yeah. Oh my,
And
yeah, that, you know, being in upstate New York, I've never experienced, a hurricane because you're from Florida
yes, yeah, that was down in South Florida. Yeah.
and now you're in Georgia. Is she in
Yeah.
Georgia as well?
No, still in South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys you're doing this, your connection more so virtually and
Yeah.
everything long distance.
Yeah, and then my mom and I still have a house down there. My mom still lives in her house in South Florida. So, I was down there all last year for the most
Hmm.
part. I wasn't really in Georgia that much. And then came when came back here, but I go down every few months anyways.
Hmm.
And so we set our printer up down there. She's was able to find us a great printer. And yeah, and so and I moved the company from Georgia to South Florida.
Yeah.
So,
Very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, the taxes are better in Florida, so.
I bet they are. Um, so I see here that you had previous collaborations with Gifted Hallmark and Soulful Steep. Now, are they also in Florida?
Gifted Hallmark is on the West Coast and they
Oh, okay.
purchased our planners.
Hmm.
And then Soulful Steep as well, that has purchased our products. So, we're in the process of getting in some additional hallmarks and stuff like that now as well. So,
So you do planners. What other types of products do you provide?
So we have journals as well. We created that was like our first item. Well, this was our old logo, which is our "You Are Loved" mug.
I
That's our
love
old
it.
logo. Thanks. And then Amy created our new one because this one everyone just thought was kind of ugly. They didn't like it. So, but I thought it was okay. So, anyways, so with our new one, we have a 21-day transformational journal that people can get absolutely free. It's an e-journal, but it really takes you through 21 days of these three areas of our lives that is like I was telling you earlier off camera, which was like three pillars of relationships with your faith, family, and friends, then career, and then self-care. Because as women, we're always pulling ourselves in so many different directions that we don't get an opportunity to have self-care. And then especially with everything getting so busy, like I just am dying to go to Jeju spa, but it's like now I'm slammed this weekend because I always overcommit myself to stuff. So I'm not going to be able to do that. But um yeah, so it's just really just an opportunity to be able to come back to a center of balance because we can, like, if you've ever seen, like families or especially with men a lot, like they get so focused on their careers that they may have be like this successful, rich guy, but his family life is very poor, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And then his other relationships, like with his friends, like all of a sudden his friends don't reach out as much because he's isolated himself so much in his career that he has focused on that. Then you're on your deathbed and you have maybe like three people show up at your funeral. Not that you'll know anyways, but my thing is that's just kind of a representation of the relationships that we build in our lives. And yes, being able to be successful and go after your career and all that is super important, but also when we get to our 50s and 60s and stuff like that, not have a place of regret, right, in our lives
Hmm.
and saying, I wish I would have. Yes, I'm happy that I was able to create financial freedom for myself. However, now like I have a broken marriage. I may or may not have my kids. My kids may not speak to me. And then now you're just like feeling lonely and sad with all this money. Like, who cares about that, you know?
Hmm.
And you want to be able to have it all per se. And I believe that both men and women are able to accomplish that by creating the right types of time boundaries and healthy boundaries in our lives, right?
Right.
So if we have like especially as women, if we're running our own business and you can say customers are calling, you're blessed enough to have a lot of customers, but you have something that comes up with your child and like they say they're going to be at a play or something, and then all of a sudden you have this customer that needs you right now, right,
Mm.
and they're going to pay triple the amount, right? But
Hmm.
what's really worth more to you, right? Because like me, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, so I feel like what we sow into we're going to reap, right? So yeah, that's great that that customer has that, but your child is going to be, especially if it's like after hours and stuff like that, your child is, that's going to be way more important. And
Hmm.
that investment in that long history of like memories, not history, but memories of your child is going to remember you showing up that day to their play. That's going to help build those solid boundaries. And
Hmm.
that customer is just going to have to wait until the next day.
Yep.
So I learned before that like everything, like as much as people think stuff's an emergency, not everything is a true emergency as much as people want it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I think that having those professional boundaries is definitely necessary because not only is that burning you out, but like you said, it's taking you away from that time and that quality, connection with your family, with your
Yeah.
child. Your child is looking for you to look at them while they're out there,
Yeah.
doing their thing, and you're on your phone trying to make a sale. That definitely puts a divide between you and your family. So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome because it does help you see that what's more valuable, that
Yeah.
sale or the time with your child and watching them be able to thrive and grow and
Yeah.
things like that. And I love that, you know.
And if you're providing true quality and a great service for your customers, that if that customer is too impatient to like wait until you've have time after you've made your commitment to your child and they don't seem to understand that, then they weren't the right customer anyways, and they're just going to drain you.
Hmm.
But and or they can just wait until the next day when you have the allotted time available for, for your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Um, so one of the things I want to ask you about all, this wonderful, like it's that this whole business, this whole company that you've put together and invited your friend to join you on. You said that it was something that you started during COVID times.
yeah.
So what was it that happened? Like what made you decide that this is something that you had to do?
So I I saw there's a lot of pain and stuff like that in the world, but I had wanted to create like this positive motivation line of
Hmm.
like t-shirts and different things like that. I just wanted to create some like creative shirts because I'm like love t-shirts. I'm like a t-shirts, flip-flops, and jeans kind of girl and or leggings. And so that was really like the gist of it. And then there was this another creative girl. So it was like a process for me. And so this other creative lady, she created this logo, the one I showed you on the mug, and she sent it to me, and it said "You are loved." And so I felt like it was God that really created that through her
Hmm.
and sent it to me because and started this process because I was like, oh, I love that. And so we just created other things. But one of my biggest things, like with my family and like my close friends and stuff like that, is like before we hang up the phone, like I started this whole thing like we have to say I love you before we hang up the phone, right? So if we
Hmm.
don't, I have like this anxiety and this fear that like if I don't say it, like what if something happens and then I didn't have the chance to tell them, even though we say it all the time, but I just need to make sure that they know that I love them, you
Yeah.
know? And so that is just like a natural thing. And so I started that when I was like a teenager with my mom, even when I'd be like a snotty little brat and I'd hang up the phone and I'd be like, dang, and I got to call her back, and I just had to get, and I was like, I love you, I just had to make sure she knew that. And so that like obsessiveness about making sure I said that kind of turned into like a business. So I just I did see there was a lot of pain and stuff, and so I wanted to have this creative, positive stuff, and I was going to sell on Amazon and whatever, and then when she sent me that logo, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the company, the brand, and then that's how it started. So she started with me, and then we weren't able to. She wasn't able to follow through with that, which was
Hmm.
fine. And then after that, there was another young lady that was super creative that I had asked, and she wasn't able to like. She overcommitted herself, like she really loves me and loves the company, and so she went through with it. And then the next process was Amy. And then I also uh read this book From Zero to a Million by this guy Ryan, and it was absolutely amazing. It helped me formulate my business, create some structure, get my avatar, and kind of really just broke things down for me with the way that my mind works on
Hmm.
like a step-by-step basis. And then during that time I was at Amy's house and I asked her if she'd be interested. And we had did like back in the day in our 20s, we did like the Woof Woof Walkers. That was the name of our company. And we were trying to start this dog walking business because we always hated having jobs. We just didn't want to get one. So we were trying to like think of ways to create income.
Hmm.
And so anyhow, so then she was like, yeah, I was like, are you sure? Because you're gonna have to commit to this and we're gonna have to really build this together. And she was like, I was like, just think about it. And because she had like promised to do a couple other things with me before and that kind of fell off. And so I was like, but the reason why nobody else worked because it was meant to be with her. And she, we even though we're not blood related, I love her like my sister. And well, I love her more than my sister actually. But
I laugh because I know what that could be like sometimes.
yeah, yeah. And so and I know her much better than my sister. My sister's like she was like 13 years younger than me. So I don't really know her that well. So anyways, so with Amy, yeah, and it was just like this perfect fit. And she will check me if my personality gets a little strong because sometimes I can, especially if it's that time of the month and my personality can get a little strong.
Relate.
And yeah, and then we just really support each other. She can
Hmm.
vent to me. I've learned to listen and not try to solve all her problems. And for the most part, I can't say I'm perfect at that, but we do really well together. So
Yes,
yeah. And it's like we love each other. We're not worried about each other trying to hurt each other or take advantage of each other or anything like that. So
that's awesome. So now were you in a like a corporate setting? Did you have like a full-time job and
I still do.
you see
Yeah.
it? Yep,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. 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 So I worked in data for 17, 18, 19 years, something like
Hmm.
that. Data technologies. And now I do sales for a totally different industry and wholesaling. And then I also help out on disaster recovery trips. So when that's needed,
Yes.
when there's hurricanes and stuff, and to be able to help people out
That's
during
awesome.
disasters. Yeah.
Yeah,
It pays nicely too, but it is nice to help. I feel
yeah.
happy helping. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You're giving back,
Yeah.
and being of
Getting paid
service.
nicely for you.
Sometimes sometimes you have to, especially if
Yeah.
you're taking time away from your full-time job to,
Yeah.
yeah, but these people, especially with what's been going on with these hurricanes this past
Yeah.
year, I mean, North Carolina, Florida, I mean, God, it's so needed.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Yeah.
if there's enough people, being able to do the
No.
work.
No. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah.
So I think that what you're doing is awesome because, you have the journals and, these awesome products that remind people to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And, I remember COVID. COVID for me, actually, I chose not to live in fear and rely on my faith,
Yeah.
and rely on God. But I think one of the things that I could say I definitely in the very, very beginning of it was full of fear and anxiety. It was just like, what's going to happen? We all just got, I don't know what happened in Florida, but New York shut down, right?
Yeah.
Like we went into like I was out of work for 11 weeks.
Wow.
11 weeks and I in
That's
the
a
de
long time.
and I work full time in dentistry, but we weren't considered essential employees.
Dentistry wasn't?
Right? You would think, but no, no,
Yeah,
they
because
shut us down.
if you end up having an infection in your tooth, that could lead to heart attacks, infections in your heart. It could lead to so many other chronic
A
issues.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think I had a lot of people reaching out to me, like people I didn't even know that I might have been connected to on Facebook. Like, I just broke a tooth and I can't get a hold of my dentist. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. And the thing is that the doctors, the dentists were supposed to be available for emergencies. Some offices stayed open. Like the doctor I worked for at the time, he still saw patients on an emergency basis, but he furloughed all of us as employees.
Okay, so he kind of did it by himself at that point.
He worked completely by himself for those
Wow, that must
11
have been a
weeks.
lot. Yeah, for him.
And and so I think some offices, they kept like maybe one or two employees on. Not everybody completely shut down, but then I hear that there were a lot of offices where the doctors just shut their doors and some of them didn't come back.
That's crazy. And that really limited people's options to be able to have quality dental care, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely rough. And a lot of people that were in the middle of treatment had to wait. They had to like got stopped. Like so if you were waiting to get a new crown in your mouth, you had to wait. If you were somebody that was waiting for new dentures, you had to
Yeah.
wait to get your dentures. So you're walking around for 11 weeks with nothing.
I would have just flown to another state. Although Florida stopped letting people from New York come in for a while.
My grandparents were down in Florida and they had to stay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but with COVID, I mean, I really think the one thing that was beneficial for me was not only it gave me an opportunity to slow down. I was working four jobs. I had a full-time job. I was selling makeup. I drove for Lyft and Uber, and I traveled and did like dentistry for at military bases.
Oh, wow. That's
And
great.
yeah, I really enjoy doing it, and it was a very fun job. I gave it up for my business,
Mm,
but what I ended up doing was sitting back and just what does Lori really want, right? Like it gave me an opportunity to really like hone in on my calling, which is coaching.
mm-hmm,
I had the calling to this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing, and it kind of gave me some time to really just you know get connected with myself, get connected spiritually. And I had this amazing ability to be connected with community, even though we
mm-hmm,
had to social distance and there was Zoom. So I was doing a lot of Zoom stuff, or I had friends where we would go hiking, we would
mm-hmm.
and just stay active and work out. And
Yeah, that's great.
that's all stuff that really was a game changer for the state of my mental health.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that if I had known that you had this company existed, I would have been diving right into those products because,
yeah,
you know, we needed that. We needed to know that there was love. Like, I
yeah,
feel like because everybody was so isolated,
yeah,
you know, the depression skyrocketed, substance abuse
yeah,
skyrocketed,
yeah. I'm sure
alcoholism.
alcoholism, I was about to say, definitely went up. Yeah.
Well, here in New York, our meetings closed.
Mm.
So a lot of stuff was on Zoom.
Oh, wow, that's crazy, but you're not as accountable because you're not in person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where a lot of people, not just in New York, I mean, I'm talking all over. I mean, there were so many people that were like, they weren't getting that same, because the one thing that keeps us sober is that connection.
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
people and being able to go and sit in a room with people that are just like you
Yeah.
and you know what I mean and bond and help each other and carry each other through. And
Yeah.
now we're sitting on a computer and we can't hug, or shake your hand.
Yeah.
And I think that isolation is not good for an addict or an alcoholic. It's
Yeah.
just
No.
not. And that isolation, can be very deadly for us. And a lot of
Yeah.
there were so many people that went back out to using and drinking and it
Mm.
it was it, and the thing is what didn't get talked about.
Yeah.
There was more deaths to drug overdoses that year than there was actual
Wow.
COVID deaths. I don't have exact numbers off the top of my head, but addiction people with died from overdoses more than people actually
Because they
passed
were
away.
isolated. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it didn't get talked about because COVID was that center. That was all anybody talked about.
Yeah. Because like there's this podcaster I listen to a lot. He is an addict and he his partner, like his co-host or whatever, not his partner, but his co-host, he's always like, why do you do so many different like martial arts, and you're like, you just really, and you have all these podcasts and his podcast and he's a stand-up comedian, and that really like is what funds his life and stuff like
Hmm.
that, and it takes care of his kids and all that. But he's like, because he has to stay busy to fight, keep away from the demons, you know?
Yeah.
So, and he's in California, but but I think the podcasting and them being able to still do that and still have that community, because there's only like two or three people in the room, and that really helped them, or them being on Zoom and podcasting, that really helped him stay, connected. And then his
Hmm.
kids helped with that as well during the pandemic. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
so
mean, and at the time, like I was single, I lived alone in a one-bedroom apartment. So it was me and my two cats. And I can remember sitting on the phone with my mom being like, I feel like all four walls in my living room are starting to close in on me. She's like, you go out and you go hiking every day. I don't want, and I'm like, but I have to. I
yeah,
have
yeah,
to. I have to stay busy. I have to
yeah.
stay moving because if I just sit here, it's gonna kill me.
Yeah. I think that's the difference between like some other, like where you lived and stuff like that with states, and probably why a lot of people left and went down to Florida or here or Texas or wherever, because I traveled during COVID. I was like in California and Oklahoma and Florida and Alabama and here, and I didn't sit still. So I,
I remember that they actually had this. I don't know if they tried to incorporate this as a law, but I remember that like if they would have police patrol neighborhoods, and if they saw that people had gatherings in their home, they would go and break them up because they were so adamant about this social distance.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And, I remember the first time I walked into a gas, I went to a Stewart's is like a big gas station around here, and it's very known for coffee and all this other stuff. And I went in to get a cup of coffee, and everybody that was in that store was only a few people, and they were standing like I'm here and they're over here.
yeah.
And I turned around and I looked around, and they all had this terrified look on their face because we didn't do masks yet.
Right, right, right.
I'm like, wow, this is freaking weird. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was always the kind of person that would just step on the line or step outside the box when they like paint these invisible boxes or arrows or whatever. I like stand around just because I'm a rule breaker.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, I can't adhere to this craziness. I just can't do it. I'm just gonna like whatever. Yeah, we had a great Thanksgiving dinner, but that was because it was down in South Florida.
yeah,
And we had it, we did have it outside, but that's just because that's where all the space was. And my friend Amy is able
yeah.
to put the big table and stuff out there. And yeah, so we didn't,
You
yeah,
didn't really, yeah, you guys, I think, might have been a little more lax than things were up here in New
yeah.
York. Like when I would go hiking with friends, I'd see people out on the hiking trails still wearing masks and things like that. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I just cannot breathe
I,
in my own CO2 while
I'm
I'm exercising.
outside.
Yeah, but I need to breathe oxygen, not my own. And I don't want to smell my own breath either.
I tried to be a good girl, but I wasn't always like, I was just like, no freaking way. Am I gonna
Yeah.
keep
Not
doing
while you're outside. You know what I mean? And like you're exercising, your body needs oxygen. So,
Yes. And it's just like it's good for you. It's good
yeah.
for you to breathe,
Yeah.
and it was just those are times that and when I'm just sitting back thinking about that, it's like you were really like what you did for people by starting this.
Yeah.
It probably really saved their lives in a lot
I
of
don't know about
ways.
that because we just
Save
started the planner this past year. So before that, it was like, the mugs and different things. And that was kind of like I wish that Amy and I would have created this during COVID. It probably would have blown up a lot faster, right?
Hmm.
Because one of the things that we do have that people could have been able to use is like a daily wellness journal. And so it talks about like the morning routine, feeling gratitude, physical activity, self-care, reflection, and just like something that you could go through like each day to be able to just bring you back to that center of
Hmm.
peace and saying, okay, this is great. You know, for someone like myself who's an isolationist, like I'm good. Like I'll go out to be around people, but I put my headphones in and watch a video on my phone. So unless it's like someone I may know, that way I don't have to talk to anybody. But I'm okay sitting in my room, being on Zoom with people. It doesn't bother me. So, but at the
Right.
same time, it's like I want to like help people and I love them and I want to, I don't know. So,
I think COVID got me very comfortable with the virtual world because like I said, so like, as somebody in recovery and being in a 12-step community and all of those meetings being on Zoom, like I think that like kind of like set the tone for this whole new world. So it's like there was a point in time where it was like, I mean, even with my business, everything is virtual.
yeah,
Everything is on Zoom, and it's made me very comfortable with it.
yeah,
Sometimes too comfortable where I actually was like, I really think I need some real human interaction. Like I need to
yeah.
actually shake hands with people and be in front of them.
Yeah, yeah. Just to be able to give like a hug. And I remember like one day, like my friend, he like I like to smoke cigars. So my friend, he opened up, he like shut his shop down here in Atlanta for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, let me go say hi to Pablo, you know? So I drove over to his shop and went in and I was like, Pablo, give me a hug. And he was like, no, Jackie. I was like, whatever, Pablo, just get over here and give me a hug. I was like, what are you scared of? Come here. He
Oh,
did not want to, but I was like, no, we're hugging. I was like, you need that human interaction. You need that touch. You need that, like, we're just like our bodies are designed for obviously healthy, positive, you know,
yes.
you know, touch. Yeah, that.
So now that it's been what, 4 years, 4 years for
Yeah.
you with this? So how has your company grown over the course of the last few years?
Well, Amy and I connected at the end of last year, and that's when we first started creating. So we really just like launched our podcast and we did like a relaunch. And when I moved everything over was like in January. And then we did our first planner and launched that in like June or July. But we did
Hmm.
18 months. So that way it goes through the end of 2025. So we really set that up for this year. And so how it's grown is we've got definitely have sold some and it's not to where we want it to be at, but I have this great guy, which I think you've connected with, but he also goes out and reaches out to influencers on TikTok for me. So
Hmm.
we've sent some out there, but I think that like, and so we're just building everything up right now for the explosion. But we're
Sure.
about to put out our 2025 because even though this one goes through the end of 2025, people probably still have like, oh, it's kind of, it's still got this year's worth or whatever in it.
Hmm.
Um, but so we're going to be launching another one for 2025
Hmm.
and we hope that yeah, and it's going to have a lot more meat in it and so forth. So it'll be our second edition. So,
Hmm.
it's slowly growing. But it's just staying consistent and I have one of the things I've had to realize is you have to become more vulnerable, right? And
Hmm.
open up and really kind of figure out how to connect. And I think TikTok has been great to show me that you have these people that are don't look perfect and some average looking people or whatever on TikTok that have these huge followings, but it's because they're just amazing people and they
Hmm.
have this vulnerability about them and they just have this way that they're able to connect
Hmm.
with their audience and then they are serving their community. And so I've definitely learned from that. And yeah, working to put myself out there more and yeah, just become
Yeah,
a little bit more vulnerable.
sure.
So,
So a lot of this has been within the past year.
past year that we've really started to, yeah, grow it right after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I relate to that 100%. So I started so when I started my coaching practice in 2021 while I was in school with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I started seeing clients, but I didn't start really growing my practice until this past year. And my podcast, I only started it back in May.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so everything is still in that same phase you're in where
Yeah.
it's like you're preparing for the explosion, right? So
Yeah.
and you're in that I call it the foundation building stage
Yeah.
because it's like a house. You can't
Yeah.
have a house stand without that foundation or it's just
Correct.
gonna freaking crumble
Yeah.
and fall. And you know, it takes that time, it takes that dedication, it takes, so much support and sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I think that this is going to blow up for you girls, a
I
hundred
I
percent.
pray that it does. I appreciate that, Lori. I pray that it does. So,
I
yeah.
believe in it. And, you know, for me, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I want to be able to, support this growth for you as much as I can. That's why it's like, if I can bring even Amy on the podcast and,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Put some stuff on social media for you, you know what I mean? With your whatever the case may be, I believe in this. I believe in it because we need it.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
it. We need to remember that we are loved. And that is a huge part of like my mission is even that self-love component. Not
Yeah.
only reminding that we're loved by others, but that we deserve to love ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's huge.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's that connection, if I think it helps build a community,
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
which you have mastermind coming up.
We do have, that's a nice segue, Lori.
What?
So we do have a so we have a thing right now which you could if you go to like youarelovedplanner.com. This is just for our page in regards to the planner, but we have a mastermind with a planner and mastermind bundle with like a 1 hour mastermind, and it's for to help people discover the secrets to harmonizing faith, family, friends, career, and self-care. And we're really going to dive deep into the planner, but also in ways to be able to implement it into your lives and to be able to come back to a center of peace and to be able to create various time boundaries for ourselves, like we were talking about earlier, and how it can help over impact our overall well-being and really kind of just dig deep into it. And so, we're doing that at no cost with the purchase of a planner. So people will be able to get access to both. And the biggest thing is we just want to make sure that we're always adding value and that people are able to really get, um, they're able to really get their, they're able to get more fulfillment and just not more information, but like just yeah, more fulfillment, I guess. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I was
But
going good
the,
there for a second.
but no, I think it's great. So so is the mastermind on a specific date?
I am going to do it probably in November, like mid-November before Thanksgiving. So
Okay. And
it
it's all
really kind of,
virtual.
yeah, it's going to be virtual for sure. Yeah. So we'll do it on StreamYard or maybe Zoom or something. I might do it on Zoom.
That's great. And then
Yeah.
I think that, see, my experience with doing mastermind courses and getting onto these calls is you really do meet people and stay connected with them. Like I
Yeah.
feel like my own personal community has just blown up just by even showing up in person, but also by showing up on these masterminds and workshops. And
Yeah.
I think that there's such a deeper, there's something deeper than, the actual journal. It's that, it's the community. It's there
Yeah.
is a lot more value than what meets the eye, I guess is
Yeah.
what I want to say.
And and they get access to our Facebook community, so they can join that as well,
Hmm.
which I think I've invited you to.
I think
Um,
I'm in it.
yeah. And
I'm in so much shit.
yeah. And then so we it's all about positivity and helping women. And like I always ask every week, it's just an automated post that goes out, just ask people what their goals are for the week. But it's just a great reminder to set those activities and tasks. And then it's like you scroll back up and like, wow, I actually accomplished that. I actually did it. I said I was gonna do it and I did it.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
And that's
Oh.
one of the other great things about like a written planner over a digital one is it's kind of like how when people journal, like they'll go back and journal like and then they can but like you could go back in your planner throughout the month or whatever
Mhm.
and say, okay, what all did I accomplish that I said I needed to do this month and how much further is my business or career or family or my faith or friends and being able to like we all need like gal time,
Yes.
and guys need
Yes.
guy time away from the gals and we need gal time away from the guys.
Yeah, I
So
100%.
yeah.
Um, so if people want to be able to connect with you about the mastermind or to be a part of your community, where can they find you?
They can find me everywhere at you, which is you are loved, LOVED. So you are loved dot store. That's all
Perfect.
of my social media.
That awesome. And I
Yeah.
believe if they wanted to, so that's your website. If they wanted to email you, it's info@youarelove.store.
Yep. That's it.
Okay, perfect. And that way, you know, then they can be a part of this awesome movement that you and Amy have going on. I think that is just I love it. I love it so much. And I really hope that in the next year I see you guys explode.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Our goal is to sell 25 planners a day. That would be amazing.
Have
If
you
it
thought
was,
about
if
going
it,
on Shark Tank?
I don't know that we have the numbers yet for Shark Tank, but I actually applied for Shark Tank a long time ago,
Do
and
it.
but I don't think we have the numbers for that yet. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, when you do, I think that would be awesome. That would be so cool to see you on Shark Tank.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They'd like probably eat me alive, but we'd get the exposure. But one
Yes.
of the ABC does get a percentage of your business at that point. You kind of sign part of your life away to them, which makes sense because you're getting that free advertisement.
Yep, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. But we are out of time.
thanks, Lori.
Oh, thank you so much for, being on my podcast and coming and sharing about this. I will definitely have to bring you and Amy back on and just talk more, about wellness and all the things, community. I think that would be great. It'd be great to meet with her too.
Okay, great.
So, thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to listen. And if you like, I will put Amy's contacts in the description of the podcast. And if there's any way that I can be of, guidance in your journey, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook under Lori A. Murphy, Empowerment Coach for Women, or you can email me at M as in Michael C, empowerment@gmail.com. That will also be in the description. Until next time, let go of fear and let your spirit shine.